I'm here today to dive in a little deeper. This last video, we talked about more on the tissue sampling time frames, where to send it, and some of the aspects of what we can do to make decisions with that data. Now on the second video, I really want to talk more into the foliar feeding aspect, but then also which nutrients are best to foliar feed, or maybe what we could visually see and some reasons why behind it. So please stick with us and we'll dive in deeper. So we're here to talk about foliar feeding. So you get that data test back, and let's say maybe it's low in nitrogen, or maybe your potassium to nitrogen ratio is not 1-to-1, which is what I really like to see in that tissue sample. This gives us an opportunity to foliar feed. One thing to know though is to get the most visual response from our crops is going to come really from 3 nutrients. You could argue maybe 4. Where you're really going to see those visual responses are going to come from nitrogen, mag, and iron. And you could argue sulfur. But the reason why is all 3 of those nutrients are so important for the chlorophyll molecule. So those elements, foliar fed, you're going to see a quick response or a visual response because you're going to be able to see it with your eye. Now, when it comes to your other macros like phosphorus and potassium, I myself have seen great results by foliar applying both of those nutrients. I mean, Michigan State has a study that if you apply phosphorus, 1 pound of phosphorus foliar is equivalent to 20 pounds applied on ground. I'm not saying that foliar feeding is here to replace soil fertility. But I am saying if your crops need a little bump and you need to make chlorophyll production increase, you know, that NPNK is great to have in that solution, definitely when you're adding micros, okay? Now you can add the zinc, you can add boron, you can add moly. I mean, there's so many of these micros of whatever you're lacking. And a tissue test should be able to tell you what's lacking on your operation. Now for foliar feeding, one thing I recommend though is always have some sort of NPNK with it. I don't care if it's a half a gallon or a full gallon with that micronutrient, but having that in there allows that plant to pull in that growth. Now, also with foliar feeding, there's conditions and there's timings that I personally like to look at. So like today, okay, before the clouds came in, it was 100-some degrees out. I mean, the humidity was high, but it was way too hot. This plant, stomatas are already shut down. Okay, I know I'm not the first person to say this, but gosh dang, if that plant is in a temperature, I personally say higher than 83 degrees, and the humidity's not up there, then our foliar feed could be wasted dollars. We got to make sure at our foliar feeding, we're treating it very precisely, because that timing is so important or we're wasting dollars, okay? Also, what I like to see when I'm using foliar feeding is having some sort of carbon source personally. I don't care if that's sugar you bought at the grocery store, if that's a fulvic acid, but having that carbon source helps feed the phylosphere that's on that leaf surface, but also helps create a neutral charge within those elements as they're getting pulled into the plant. So it's another opportunity for foliar feeding. Number one, making sure the conditions are right, okay? Early morning, late evening is the premier times, okay? You may be sitting here saying logistically, I can't get that done across all my acres. That's okay. Choose 10, 25% of your acres and make sure they're done timely, and you'll get way better return on your investment than trying to just push through it when temperatures are not in the right conditions. So we talked about the nutrients that we'd see the biggest response from. So like I said, if you want to see a visual response, nitrogen, magnesium, iron, what makes the plant green, sulfur. Just careful with sulfur because that's where your salt content comes from. But then we also talked about conditions, making sure that it's not too hot, making sure humidity's right, and then finally talking about having the intention of our application. Okay, it doesn't need to be every acre. Okay, you would get way bigger return making sure 25% of your acres were done correctly than 100% of your acres done at 50%. So we have one more video here to get even deeper into the nooks and crannies about exactly what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to do. So please join us into this last video of the series, and we'd love to see you there.
Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all the full-length podcasts, other video information, tutorials on there. Also on all the major podcast platforms and social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So if you like this, go ahead and check more out on all those platforms.